So today I wanted to talk a little bit about Gorilla Technology Group, which, if you're not aware of, is a small, around 300 million market cap AI infrastructure company that really is just getting started. Pretty new company, and it's one that I've been following for a little while now, around a year. And I've made some profits on it, but over the last around 6 months or so, it has been struggling. But I wanted to highlight it today because they announced earnings on Tuesday, November 18th. So I just wanted to kind of go in depth about why I think this earnings could seriously help the stock out big time, which it does need right now, and why I think this could be an amazing buying opportunity to buy into a company that I think is going to be worth a lot in the future. And I think getting in at 300 million market cap is a steal. So to kind of go over, what the stock has been through in the last year, it really, a year ago today, it was around $4. And then it had this run up to $25, a little bit of a pullback, and then eventually hit all the way up to $40. And the reason for that was their earnings were just kind of slowly increasing. Their revenues were increasing. They were still unprofitable, and they still are unprofitable. But I think investors are just kind of seeing, this company, it was worth around 50 million. It should not be worth 50 million. All these AI plays are getting these billion-dollar market caps, which Gorilla never got to, but it got to around 500 million or a little more at some point. So that's really what investors love. But obviously with that came a little bit of a pullback from 40 down to even 25. And then there was a short report mixed with Liberation Day, which set the stock back all the way down to around the 20 levels, a little below that, kind of hovering from 20 to 15. And a lot of stocks did have that story where they fell on Liberation Day or around then, but a lot of them did rebound and are now doing, the same or better than they did before that. But Gorilla Technologies never got to that point and never really did rebound. It had some moments where you thought, oh, this could be it. It hit, 22, it hit 25 this one time after one of their earnings, but it always just seemed to fade back down, which as an investor, I've been, invested fully throughout this entire period, was definitely very frustrating for me. And I made videos on it, and it's kind of frustrating how through all the videos, even though there have been, great reasons which would make this company seem like a great buy at only 300 million market cap, when you have companies like Big Bear AI and even Palantir in the huge level that obviously maybe they're profitable, Palantir is profitable, but still their revenues are, not anywhere near what justifies their valuation, but they still have these multi-billion-dollar and even $100 billion valuations, these AI companies. And Gorilla never got really that hype over the last 6 months. It did at one point, but now it hasn't over the last 6 months. It's stuck now at 300 million market cap. They make around 100 million in revenue a year, so that's very reasonable. And for an AI company, 100 million in revenue, you see some of these quantum stocks with 1 million in revenue, and they are $10 billion companies. So Gorilla definitely hasn't been benefiting from that type of hype. But I think this earnings could really be one that changes it. Right now, we're sitting at $12.94 per share. I think this could seriously reverse it to become maybe, hopefully, what investors see as a billion-dollar company now, and a company that they think can seriously scale in the future. And there's really one big reason for that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, their earnings are really is what's going to bring it back up to 20 or 30 or 40. It's not, because their earnings, everyone kind of knows what to expect with them. They're projecting 100 million in yearly, 100 to 110 million in yearly revenue, and they're probably going to be unprofitable. So that's not what's going to blow investors out of the water. What's going to is going to be the guidance. And they haven't given 2026 guidance yet, which is really the reason I'm saying this, is because investors are kind of, I feel like, waiting for that, just seeing, in 2026, how much will their revenue scale, and will that help them maybe become profitable? And the one big reason that their revenues are probably going to scale a good amount in 2026 is this $1.4 billion contract they signed in September. And I made a video on this back in September, and I'm going to highlight it again now. But they signed a $1.4 billion contract to build, use their AI infrastructure in Singapore, basically. And the 1.4 billion doesn't span, 10 or 15 years. It only spans 3 years. So if you do the math on that, that's around a little more than 450 million a year in revenue being brought in. And obviously, first of all, they're working with another company, but they did say that majority of it will go to Gorilla, or even more than a majority, because the other company is really just to help them scale, but Gorilla is providing the technology. So that's not really a worry that they're going to be left with 100 million a year. We're talking more than 250 million a year. And obviously there's supposed to be, for 2026, it's a 3-year project, but it's probably just going to be, 2026 is a little the lower end of the revenue. And then 2027, 2028 is really when they scale it up and they get more. But any way you put it, right now they're making 110 million in revenue this year for the full year. with just this contract alone, they add, say, 250 million extra onto that. That is at least 300 million in revenue. Obviously, I have no idea what they're going to announce for guidance, but 300 million in revenue per year, that would be equal to their market cap, which is crazy for an AI stock. It shouldn't be that way. So hopefully that is enough for investors just kind of say, you know, this is a $1 billion company. And if you say that, that's an easy 3x, more than 3x. You get in before earnings on Tuesday morning and you easily 3x your money. And that's not really that crazy to say, just because you know that contract exists, you know that it's going to help their revenues. It says in the contract that they're starting to do their work in Q4 of 2025. So you know the revenues are going to hit in 2026. So it really just comes down to, do investors see the vision? Because their guidance should be above 300 million. Hopefully, I don't know, you know, they're going to get a lot of questions if it isn't that way, because they have that contract and that's just that contract. They have a tons of other contracts and tons of other developments that are going to help raise their revenue from year over year. So if it does go that way, where it's, you know, above 300 million in guidance, hopefully you see investors, which is what I'm banking on, see this as a more than $1 billion company, and maybe up there with Big Bear AI as like a viable AI play. And in that case, you see this $44 point that they reached earlier in the year as, you know, something they could break out of. And then you see maybe them becoming profitable with all this new money. So I really do love this play, and I think this, if you buy before Tuesday morning, will pay off astronomically. I've been following it. I know maybe it's frustrating if you've bought in at 21 or 25 or even 40 and you're down a ton of money, but I truly have a lot of confidence in the stock. And really, what you can do, I'm still holding, but if after they release their earnings, and if they don't raise their guidance for whatever reason, they have excuses, it's easy to just sell out of it for me. I'm not that emotionally attached to it. And also, if they do announce guidance higher and the stock goes down a ton, or if it doesn't move at all, maybe it's time to consider selling out. But I think the chances are in your favor if you do buy into this pre-earnings, to see their guidance go above 300 million, and to see investors seriously wake up to this stock and stop, believing the short reports, and maybe some of the investors that say, oh, it's not profitable yet, it shouldn't have any market cap. I truly don't think that's true. So, let me know in the comments what you think, but I am very excited for Tuesday morning. If you see this video before Tuesday morning, I highly suggest buying. I think this company could, if they really do take off with their guidance and stuff, could seriously be a 1 billion, 10 billion, even 100 billion in 10 years or whatever. I think they're really scaling well, and they are a very new company. So I would seriously consider buying before earnings on Tuesday morning. Let me know what you think in the comments. As I said, if you're liking the videos, please subscribe, and see you next week.